I'm finding that even when the world gives you certain things, you have to learn how to give them to yourself actively. I think that a lot of times we misplace our appreciation for what we receive in our constant acknowledgement of things that we want in addition. I think we lose a lot of what we have in our search for everything else. And I think the only way to get what you want is to want what you get. And what that means to me is recognizing that the world is going to give you plenty of things. And I don't mean that to say that every one of your desires and dreams will be fulfilled in every moment, but to say that there's no reason to not appreciate the things that you actually receive on a regular basis. I think sometimes we want, apples, but sometimes we get a pear. And it's important to appreciate the pear regardless. I think our appreciation needs to not live in reference to everything around us so we can actually learn how to be happy where we are. And in saying that wanting everything you get is sort of to say always prefer the moment. Always have the preference of where you are and don't demean the moment in everything that you're experiencing and your constant acknowledgement of what it is not. When I receive anything in your day to day, when you're doing anything, it's important to have gratitude for what it is. And I think if we can learn to not necessarily trick our mind, but learn to appreciate the moment as it comes, then we're going to attract so much more beneficial things into our lives. When we're constantly focused on the negative aspects of our own lives or negative aspects of what could be, we bring that into our life. Not in an essence of it just being a thought, but in essence of you actually experiencing that thing in the present moment. And I think if manifestation is to work, or if anything in that regard is to work, then it's always in virtue of how you feel. And I think even if you say you appreciate something, even if you just say, oh, I'm thankful for that, I'm thankful for this, and you don't feel it, I think that gratitude actually does nothing for you. I don't mean that to say that gratitude is misplaced, but to say that we actually have to feel sometimes. You actually have to acknowledge the feelings that some of these things bring and somewhat bring ourselves to the feelings whenever that's not readily available. And what that means to me is whenever anything happens, appreciate it because you can appreciate yourself. Appreciate it because it's not necessarily something that starkly determines your value or determines how you should feel in a moment. I talked about this in my last video about the idea of happiness and the ideas that strip us away from it and how we take ourselves away from happiness and our inability to address that happiness is something that comes from you. It's not something that comes from experiences and events and this is and the other. Because it's always your relationship to those experiences and events that breed that happiness. And you're the only person that can feel that feeling. So if we can learn how to feel ahead of the event in a way, or learn how to bring our desires into the present moment via our feeling, like feeling grateful for having achieved whatever you want to achieve at the end of whatever, then you can begin to live your life unrestricted. Unrestricted in the sense that whatever you do won't constantly be in this constant effort of your acquisition of some outcome. We won't constantly be taking away from our present moment and our ability to appreciate what's currently here and our reference to what we actually want in the future. And we have to recognize that this future that we're wanting doesn't actually exist. It doesn't, and it never will. The only way to guarantee a future is to be present enough to make all the necessary steps to create that something. And it always occurs within the present moment. It doesn't occur in the future. And I think once we recognize that, then the importance in achieving anything and getting to our goal isn't so much about thinking, isn't so much about effort, but learning how to be still enough with your mind, quiet enough with who you are to allow it to flow. I think a lot of us can recognize in our times of happiness, in our times of alignment, when things are going our way, this is going our way, that is going our way, it's times where we're not actually overthinking everything. And I think sometimes our thought acts as a wall between us and the unknown. And I think in trying to figure out what this unknown is and predict it and have expectations, we use our mind. We use our mind to do something that it can't do. I'm recognizing that the mind and our senses can only work with the information that is within the present moment. And the more we try to venture into the future, into some type of displacement with the past or the future, the more we're taking away from our ability to perceive what's actually here. And I think if we want to have any opportunities that are here, if we want to benefit from the opportunities that are at our disposal, the only opportunity we have to do that is within the present moment. And in my own experience, especially recently, I'm trying to get back into this idea of like stop thinking, start being. Getting more so back into learning how to exist without the restrictions that you place within yourself. Because all the limitations we have are at first mental. It's always a restriction that we have in our relationship to something like, oh, this person acted this way, I have to act this way. That in and of itself is a restriction because you're confining your action and acting as if it's something that you have to do, like it's an obligation that you have no choice in the matter. And of course, there are decisions that we should make, that we have a strong reason to make. But what I'm saying is, we need to learn how to give ourselves back to control by not taking it away from ourselves. I think a lot of times we create this weird disposition with ourselves. We treat our lives as if they're this something that, just flows without our control, but we also recognize how much influence we have. And I think in not acknowledging your own influence over yourself and not acknowledging the role you play in your own life, all you have is discomfort and suffering. I think there is a certain amount of calmness to letting go of the whole idea, but I don't think a lot of us can let go of the whole idea. I think a lot of us tend to overthink or tend to try to think through all of our issues and all of our life and try to make sure that it can be this perfect thing. And we stress ourselves out in our finite moments of effort. Like if I'm trying to do something to achieve this, when I'm doing it, I'm gonna act like it's this huge effort. And then when I'm done, I'm gonna be tired. And I'm realizing that tiredness that we feel isn't from the effort we put in. It's from our displaced energy and thinking about the future. If you were just sit still right now and just think thoughts only about the future and feel some type of stress or negativity surrounding those thoughts, of course, or about the past and relive some type of negativity and relive the past, you're going to recognize that in the present, you're losing energy. You're losing motivation. You're losing feeling. You're losing happiness to be where you are. And you're going to start to identify with these emotions that are representative of negative futures and negative past. And you're going to create the circumstances and events via your inability to act in the present moment. And that's why I think it's important to want what you get. You get what you want by wanting what you get. Is to say, you have to learn how to just play with the cards you're dealt. I have certain desires that I want and things that I want to happen in my future. But I think when placing things on such a rigid time scale or placing things within a certain order, like this has to happen here, this has to happen there, is instantiating to me or instantiating to ourselves that there's a part of us that would not be sufficient if this were not to happen. And I think in that insufficiency, in already feeling that vacancy within ourselves, we're already extending this idea that whatever we want is separate from us. And I think if we want it to be a part of us, if we want it to be whole, we have to make it part of us. And not necessarily just with the physical embodiment of whatever it is we want, but with our feeling. With feeling deserving, with feeling like you can actually achieve something. What you can believe you can achieve. If we don't believe that we can actually achieve something, then we won't ever be able to. You can't cross a finish line if you don't acknowledge that there's a finish line there. You won't even run. There's no objective. There's no rhyme or reason. How can you solve a problem you don't acknowledge is there? A lot of things need our acknowledgement. I think that's what our awareness should be used for. I think a lot of us tend to use our self-awareness in a negative way. We tend to hark on the introspective parts of ourselves and think that we constantly need to build this up. We constantly need to work towards this and do that in order to feel sufficient, in order to love ourselves, in order to give ourselves what we actually need to exist in the moment. And I'm recognizing that we can always give ourselves what we need in the moment because you're always enough for you and you're already in the moment. There's no rhyme, reason, condition for you to be where you are and to be happy where you are. And of course, there are certain things that can take us away from our happiness in a real physical sense. Like if somebody came up to me and hit me in the knee with a bat. Yes, I probably wouldn't be happy. But in things that we can have a say, have an influence over, in terms of our own mental perspective, in terms of our own feeling, then the importance should be to give ourselves a feeling that actually allows us to exist within the moment and continue to move forward within it. I think when we allow certain doubts or allow certain ideas to perpetuate into our lives, that's what we experience, and that's what is created. In the same way that everything is everything, everything is in essence you, because you are what you experience. And if we're negative, we're going to experience the negative. And you're going to see negative things in your life, and you're going to feel like those negative things are continuing to come. You're going to make decisions based on negativity, which tend to lead you towards more negativity. And you're going to feel like you're manifesting negative things, or negative things just keep happening, without recognizing that we are the catalyst to our own experience, because that is what we experience. Your mind is your attention. If you want to place it on the world, that's how you be in the world. If you want to place it within your head and within the future and the past, it's not like you're in the future or past. You're in your own projection of your own feeling about the future or past. And a lot of times it has more to do with our insecurities than our hopes. We tend to look into the future and posit so much faith and so much motivation into a future something, because we don't have the faith we need right now. We don't think we're sufficient enough right now to do whatever it is we want. And of course there are certain things that take time, like you need to get this degree before you can get this job, you need to do this before you do that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, I wouldn't say constantly, but it doesn't mean that your intention shouldn't be to be present. Your intention should be to be in the present moment, so you can actually experience the happiness that's within it. And if we can recognize that all moments pass, and this moment will never happen again, then aren't you doing yourself a disservice by not embracing the positivity or happiness that's here? Or at least giving it to yourself in virtue of, oh, I'm alive, that's reason to be happy. Or, oh, I get to do this today, the reason I am happy. Oh, I woke up today. Oh, it looks beautiful outside. Oh, it doesn't look beautiful outside. You could still be happy. I feel like all of these things sort of exist at the same moment, and we should be the ones to get to decide what makes us happy and what doesn't. I feel like that's the only freedom that an individual can truly have in this world. Because if we constantly base it on external opinions, external ideas, then we're constantly going to be living in the world of other people. And I don't mean that to say we shouldn't live in the world of other people, quote unquote, but we're all living in the same world. We're all sharing this. So it's important to sort of share with love. If you are what you experience, and what you experience is what you give, then you give with love. And when I'm saying give, I don't necessarily mean objects, things, but when you're giving yourself to the moment, like when I'm giving myself to this right here, to my experience, to what I'm doing, do it with love, with a subtle amount of appreciation for you, and just being able to experience anything. And I think that's how you want what you get. Because there's no other way it should be. And there's no other reason you should take your appreciation down. If you allow your life to sort of unfold and learn to appreciate whatever comes, then you actually get to live your life. If we constantly are looking at what we receive and then referencing it to things that don't exist, then we're not living our life. We're thinking of a life that's different from ours and demeaning the one that's currently here. And again, I don't mean that to say don't have desires. I mean that to say when you're in the present, or when you're here, or when you're trying to get to your desires, or doing the work that's necessary, give yourself the happiness where it is. You don't graduate a single day, because it's not the single day that led to the graduation. It's every single present moment that led you to that acquisition. And the same thing is going to work with our goals and our objectives and our overall journeys. And that's why I think it's not the path that needs affirmation, it's the self. Because if you never give yourself affirmation for even walking the path, then once you get to your outcome and objective, you're going to be like, great, what's in it for me? Overall, I think that there's a subtle beauty to life when you're unstressed. And when I say unstressed, I mean when you're not stressing yourself, when you're not constantly looking at things to hark on, when you're constantly not putting yourself at odds with your current circumstances, when you're recognizing that if you want something, or if you want your circumstances to change, it has to start with a shift in your perspective, a shift in your mentality. If like attracts like in this sense, or if you attract what you are, I'll say, then it's constantly harking on the negative aspects of your circumstances going to bring something new into your life that's better? Or would embracing the positivity that's there and doing what you can with what you have to build something better be more beneficial. And I think that constant reference point is what takes away our happiness in that essence too. If we didn't know of the existence of other things, then we would be so much more happy in what we receive readily. If I didn't know a pear existed and I got an apple, but I love pears, let's just say I hypothetically love pears, but I got apple, and I didn't know what a pear was, I would love the apple even more. And I don't mean that to say forget everything else that exists, but appreciate whatever is right in front of you. Appreciate the person that's appreciating it in essence too. I think once we do that, then again life starts to become about being the life instead of trying to see it. And I think a lot of us try to see the life. We try to look for reasons to feel happy here. We try to look for reasons to validate ourselves here, when none of that really matters. It's not about your appreciation of what you possess. It's the appreciation of who's possessing it. There are many things that are going to come and go in the whole journey of life. And I think if we never take the time to appreciate what's here, then it's going to be gone before we ever get the chance to truly do that. And I think appreciating something in the moment while it's here is one of the most freeing feelings. It's one of the most present feelings. I think the reason that we don't think so much in our times of good fortune, in our times when things go our way, is because we are somewhat not forcing ourselves, more inclined to appreciate the moment while it's here. If you waited your whole life for these blessings and it finally came, you would appreciate it while it's here. And the point isn't to just wait for that appreciation when it gets there, but appreciate yourself all the way up until the point of its acquisition, and so on, and keep going. Because it's not about the object, it's about how it makes you feel. The objective was never to get something, it was to be something. It was to be happy because you got this, or be happy in essence of this, or I want to achieve this, period. Because it makes you happy, because it's what you want to do, and what you want to do would make you feel fulfilled. But if we can give ourselves fulfillment and happiness and being ourselves and not putting restrictions on ourselves, but of course still going towards our desires, still trying hard, still doing our best, then I think we'd actually begin to experience a more positive life. All in all, thank you all for watching. Thank you for staying tuned if you made it this far. If you didn't make it this far, thank you anyway. I appreciate you guys. And I hope you're doing what you can with what you have. A lot more on the way. Like I said in the last one, book on the way. Imagine Profound Pondering, the YouTube channel, condensed into a novel. And then everything could be in one place. All in all, thank you. Keep being great. Make sure you take care of yourself, doing what you can, what you have. And before I forget,